Savvy Central Radio, drawing out the best from our guest with your host, Christina Nichman.
If you are an American and concerned about your family's health and safety, you'll not want to miss Savvy Central Radio's live interview and film screening with Dr. Gregory A. Smith, MD, producer of American Addict 2, taking place this November 6th and 7th. American Addict 2 digs deeper into the world of corruption, politics, and pharmaceutical greed. Tickets are limited for this private viewing, live interview, and Q&A, so get your tickets today while they last at bit.ly/AmericanAddict2. This is your host, Christina Nichman. Each week, Savvy runs weekly broadcasts providing entrepreneurs and successful individuals a platform to express their dreams, hopes, lessons learned, expertise, and wisdom with the world. Our guest today is Asa Leveaux. Asa is fiercely committed to guiding entrepreneurs to achieve result-based transformations. He activates the genius in their mind and in their money. He also trains them to know that they are the answer to someone's prayer, so they can possess an existence that is saturated in possibilities. Mr. Leveaux has over a decade of organizational experience working with amazing clients, customers, employees, and decision-makers while guiding them to achieve remarkable success. His mission and commitments are to take you from a level of bull and give you the tools and resources that will support you on your journey to blissful success. Find out more about Genius Academy and Asa at geniusacademy.co. Hi, Asa. Welcome to Savvy Central Radio. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm fabulous today. I'm very happy you can come on out. I'm glad we got connected. You've been doing amazing work out there. You're an entrepreneur, a leading entrepreneur who's created the Genius Academy and wrote your new book, I'm Man Enough, 365 Affirmations for Men. So share with our audience a little bit about your background, how you came to becoming an entrepreneur and creating your newest book and the Genius Academy.
Of course. So for starters, I grew up in Oklahoma City. I'm Okie for real. I enjoy my time there. I still claim it. So it's not all bad. It's actually more to the state and the city than people recognize. I attended Oklahoma State University first, right after 9/11, like 2 months after. I had some things come up in my personal life. And with 9/11, it made me want to enlist. And so in 2001, I enlisted into the United States Army Guard, which was basically a pivotal point for me, because that's where I understood that I was thinking so small and the world was huge. And there were so many opportunities that could be afforded to me, and that there were people that I had never even thought of even being on earth, and they were there, and how could I add value to them? So right after I came back from Afghanistan, I opened my first business. I was a 22-year-old entrepreneur, and that looked like having 3 businesses, a fraternity and regalia store called Mahogany Concepts, a janitorial cleaning company that served commercial contracts, as well as a daycare center that was licensed for over 100 children. And no one could help me. I didn't find any real resources. Even my family criticized the way I price my items, because they weren't even familiar with things such as profit margins and things of that nature. So you don't know what you don't know. And so I had to learn and have some very hard lessons along the way. And then building up all of those businesses during that time, and going through situation after situation and hardship after hardship, and finally losing all 3 of those businesses around the exact same time. And then not just losing that, but then losing a marriage, because I got married before my first deployment. And now I have this little boy who I call my son, my SON and my SUN, named Adonis. Now I have him. And so everything is changing in life, and I still don't have really anyone to help guide me in that. And I was blaming everybody and everything except myself. based on all the failures or stumbling blocks or challenges, however you want to call it. I'm dealing with all that. And so I end up keep getting deployed 4 times, receiving a Bronze Star in the midst of all that, and still being an entrepreneur with different startups, collaborations. And then I wrote a book. I wrote a very controversial book, and that allowed me the ability to be on speaking engagements and radio shows. And whenever people would come to me after the speaking engagements, the conversation would always turn back to entrepreneurship, even though the book was meant to help people find jobs. And so as a result of that, I became an entrepreneur coach. And doing the entrepreneur coaching, I kept telling my clients, when you want to get rich, you need to find your niche. That's the key. Niche, be specific, reside in specificity, and that'll help you, and also create a system. And so I wasn't doing that myself. And so I had to realize, what was I telling my clients all the time that got them to the results that they needed over and over again? And once I finally realized what that was, that looked like me creating something called the Journey to Genius, which is a 7-step transformational program that helps entrepreneurs from everything from defining your own success to dealing with your own level of bullshit that is going on in between your ears, like you can't do it, you're not good enough, and all that, all the way to, having a level of blissful success that you deserve and that you desire. And now that looks like being the founder of Genius Academy, where I teach people how just not to be entrepreneurs, but how to be better humans, and also to have a level of accountability that will help them get to where they need to be.
Wow. I pulled a lot out of what you just said there. For one, I think it's interesting that you had 3 failures before you started to evaluate and say, okay, what's not going on here? Let's take some personal responsibility and what can we do differently? Because obviously you can't keep doing things the same way and expect different results. And
right.
I know for myself, when I got started, I was doing what I was doing. My first business was what I did in corporate, and I thought it would be easy breezy. I've done it in corporate. It should be a piece of cake to make a business out of it, and it wasn't. And I think that's what we don't realize. Often the most successful have a lot of failures before they really start seeing the successes. And I'm getting from you that it wasn't just like you just opened the door and bam, it was easy breezy.
Oh no,
Yeah.
It was so not easy breezy. And the thing about it is I would not take away any of that for where I am now. Because my thing is, when I'm teaching or when I'm discussing things with other entrepreneurs, I'm not teaching or talking about theory. I'm talking about a real life experience. So when I talk about the benefit and the value of having a good quality sales plan and sales strategy, that's because in my business, I'm sitting there in my retail store waiting for someone to call and or come in, and I'm not picking up the phone dialing for dollars myself.
That's a good point, because a lot of the people listening to our show are coaches, consultants of that nature, and they're, losing their mind. I'm not a coach myself, but I hear them saying, I'm not having sales, things aren't moving. And that's a very important point. You have to take action by yourself. I've heard some coaches say, well, I don't do cold calls. They're uncomfortable. Well, talk to us a little about comfort and getting outside your comfort zone, and how does that maximize your success?
So everything that you want is out on the other side of comfort. My thing is, if I'm going to bed and I did not once feel uncomfortable, I did a disservice to my destiny, period. Because it doesn't feel good to call someone who's never met you, and now you have to convince them in less than 2 minutes on why they should even value you or keep talking to you. Yeah. It doesn't feel comfortable to ask someone for a collaboration. So if you're a coach and you want to do a telesummit, you want to talk to another coach who you never talked to, that doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to ask someone, can you do a speaking engagement? I have spoken all over, and I've literally had a great speaker on a national stage, and I'm in the back of the room, and they come off the stage, and I get out of my feelings about that. And I know that they have a part in my destiny. And so I need to go and ask them, I would love to work with you and have you on a telesummit or a series that we could do. What do you think about that? and being ready for a no, but totally being prepared for a yes.
I love that you just said that, Asa, because early on when I started Savvy, we grew fairly quickly within 6 months to 40,000 listeners, or a little over 40,000 listeners. And someone said to me, how do you get some of the top experts on your show? And really, it's basically I call them up and I ask them. And sometimes I called several times to get the right person because you don't always get the right person. And it's just, as long as you're polite and respectful, most people will be gracious. And you might have to try a bunch of times because they're very busy. And
right.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so glad you said that because I do often say the power is in the ask. Mm-hmm. And the book that I did write, I Am Man Enough, 365 Affirmations for Men, when I wrote that, I knew that in order to sell, in order to have a place in the market in this book, because this is a self-help book, and we understand that that genre is not just a small piece of the market. It is very significant. And that I wanted a level of credibility that I could not do on myself in that moment. So what did I do? I asked one of the top men for me to write an endorsement. And that was Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith that was on The Secret. And people ask me all the time, so how did you do that? They're thinking that I'm going to give them some wonderful 21-point plan. But the fact of the matter is I went to his website and I found a contact information that may be connected to him the closest. And I asked. And not only did I ask once, I asked twice.
Yeah, I get that. And once I wanted someone on so bad. He was one of my favorite books of all time in 2012, biology, that I called Denmark twice and emailed 7 times. So persistence definitely pays off sometimes. Now, Asa, I remember you mentioning early in the conversation that friends and family didn't get you in the beginning. They thought you were a little loopy, and pricing and all of that didn't make sense. And I had the same experience. When first people were asking, what do I charge to be a consultant? And I was saying, $35 an hour, which isn't huge. They about fell out of their chairs because they work as an employee. So maybe they're making $24 an hour or whatever. And they were giving me a lot of lip. How do you deal, or what would you be your advice to people out there who are starting a business and their families being really not helpful, or their friends in the way of, how to run the business or what to do?
So, and that's great because so I would have been, and I even had a spouse who was not supportive at all. And I understand what that feels like. And I would say to your listeners, please understand, or please, I'm going to ask you to consider that your passion is your problem. Your calling on your life was your calling. You picked up the phone. Your family didn't pick up the phone. And you're going to see that when you have a level of success, because when you have a level of success, you know that people are pulling on you. People want you to do this for them, this other for that, and people are just grabbing. But when you go home, as Lisa Nichols says, they just want you to make the sweet potato pie. They don't care where you've been. That's all they care. They just like, did you bring the sweet potato pie? That's all we care about. And you have a level of love and trust, the grace and the space to just be you, just be Asa, or just be Christina, and don't have to worry about all the demands. And so even though it feels sucky, allow them to love you the best way they know how, and what they know how, and the way they know how to love you may not be the way in which you expect it. And if that is, have that conversation and don't assume that they know what to do.
That's a good point, because they mean all the best, and getting angry at them because they don't understand where you're at, it's not their path, it's your path. So just, as someone once said on my show, look for other people who are going through the same path as you, who are where maybe you want to be, to lead you in the right direction. But don't look to people who aren't on your path to say, well, get what I'm talking about right here, get what I'm trying to say, because it's not their path. It's not for them. It's not their problem, as you said.
Right. And totally compartmentalize your life. Let family be family. Let your colleagues be colleagues. Let your customers and clients be customers and clients.
And you mentioned something a little bit before in our conversation about accountability. How important is accountability to the overall success of your business?
So with my business, it's huge. It's huge because Genius Academy is the largest and most effective accountability practice in the world. We provide luxury accountability services, not just for entrepreneurs, but also for the clients of those coaches, trainers, and consultants out there in the world that want to ensure that their clients have the best possible experience with their programs and packages. And even the definition of accountability sometimes seems hard and even hard to swallow. Yeah. Because sometimes when we think about accountability, we think about who can we blame. So if we're taking personal accountability, then that means we must be taking the personal blame. But my definition that I've come up with for accountability, help me swallow that a little better, is when you combine your intention with your implementation and a high level of integrity, that's where accountability comes up.
I really like that you're going here, because I've heard there's a lot of guilt and shame wrapped around accountability. And I think that's why often we look to blame others outside of ourselves, because when things are going really awful in our lives, you're thinking there's no how, no way that I want the results I'm getting in my life. So to start pointing the finger back at yourself and saying, okay, what am I doing action-wise, or how am I being in the world that is presenting what I'm getting, is a really hard pill to swallow. So I like where you're going here. So it's not making it so much about guilt and shame, but just looking at, okay, what are the results, or what are the productivity you're putting out there that are creating the results you're getting?
Exactly. And when you accept that level of productivity, you understand that your power will increase. And what I mean by that is when you stop blaming everybody else and start recognizing that all of the answers that you need are within you, you start realizing that everybody on the outside does not have that much power, and that you have that power. Because you're blaming your friends and your mother and your uncle, they have all the power. But when you start blaming you, and I say, Asa, the reason why is this, you're like, well, if the reason why is this, that means I need to do another action. And that means I have the power.
That's a really good point, Asa, because I realized early on when I first got started with my business, my mentor had said to me, I had a business mentor, and she said, so what are you doing to get out of the house and meet people? And again, it was that uncomfortableness. I didn't want to have to talk to people I didn't know. And she's like, listen, the people are not going to just start knocking at the door and giving you money. You're going to have to get out there, get uncomfortable, meet people, go to networking events, whatever it takes, picking up the phone, doing cold calls to find that business. And it's once she brought that to my attention, I started to realize, the opportunity was right there. I just had to take the action.
Exactly.
So tell us more about how you came to creating your book, I'm Man Enough, 365 Affirmations for Men. Why did you create that book?
Well, in my business, at first I was targeting everyone. But we all know that if you're speaking to everyone, you're speaking to no one. So what I did is I made sure that I was going after a certain type of man. And in my coaching experiences with clients that are men, I understood a underlying tone with men just not feeling good enough. No matter how society views us or does not view us, there is definitely an underlying tone. And so there's a lot of spotlight on women with eating disorders, body image issues, and things of that nature. But no one is speaking to that with men. And we have that. There are a large sect of us that do. However, we struggle in silence. And so I wanted to speak to that man that did not feel that they were enough, especially with things as far as the homosexual community, not feeling like they're man enough. Those that feel that because they were drawn to certain things like the arts, or even just having another way of being in the world that was not stereotypical, and feeling like they didn't have any part to play in the world of manhood. I wanted to speak to that. And I understand the difference between speaking to someone's manhood versus speaking to someone's masculinity.
That is a fabulous, fabulous point. I recall many years back, I was talking to a boss of mine, and I said to him, you guys have it easy. Life is easy for you guys. I mean, you get paid more just for showing up at a job. So I figured life is easy for you guys. And he said, no, it's not. I mean, there's so much demand by society that we make good money, that we have a good job, that we're tall, that we're fit, and that we can make big families and be a strong provider. And so when I go out on a date with a woman, I have to make sure I have enough money to, wine and dine her, and she just gets to show up and looking pretty. There's a lot of pressure on men to be providers and to bring a lot to the table. So when you mentioned here, being an entertainer or being from the gay community, how do you fit into that societal view of how you have to be a man? It's hard.
Right. It is. And I don't want them to have that. And another part of this whole masculine conversation is that most of the commercials that I'm seeing is surrounding the fact or the question that are you man enough, and capitalizing on the inner question that we're having. So if you see a truck commercial and they're selling some big truck, it's basically, are you man enough to handle this truck?
Mm. Or
I even saw a taco commercial that literally asked, are you man enough for this taco?
Crazy.
So it's a lot of different places. I wouldn't say it's everywhere, but it's a lot, especially if you are someone in the military, and especially with my military experience, I see that a lot with people going in the military, not for, the historical reasons, family, God, and country, but literally just to prove to somebody else that they are man enough.
And I would guess even a lot of people who are gay or whatever, or don't feel man enough, I'll just go there to look all masculine and prove I'm a man.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And so what did you gain from being in the Army Guard? Was there certain elements that you got from serving that did help you in your business?
Yes. So I was enlisted and an officer. Mm-hmm. And I would say that the Army did teach me accountability. It was the precursor to all of this. And what I mean by that is when you are in the military and you come to a meeting, and let's say you are responsible for the PowerPoint slides. Well, in my civilian background, if you forget the slides, then you just kind of say, I forgot the slides. It's kind of like, that's it.
No biggie. Yeah.
Military, okay, you forgot the slides. So what you going to do about it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you need to have an action plan. So you forgot the slides. First, give me reason why you did it. Mm-hmm. And now tell me how you're going to fix it.
Oh, I love it. This recalls for me, Asa, I had a boss who was really good on this target. He would really expect a lot of us employees and say to us just that if you did not perform up to standard or what you were given to do, whatever your quota was or whatever, he wanted an explanation why you didn't do it and what are you going to do to make it happen. And I used to think he was so mean, but I can now see how he really helped us be our best.
Yes.
Yeah. And how did your, maybe your military experience or just having a business in general help you improve your focus? And was focus really a big portion of your success in your business?
So starting out, focus was horrible. My focus was horrible, point blank. I mean, I was 22, married, with deployment experience, with 3 businesses in Oklahoma City. And my thing was I was going around town, quote unquote, flossing. So I had the money to do what I wanted to do. And so I was at the bourgeois networking events where actually no networking was happening. I was at meet and greets, and I was meeting mover and shakers, but I was making 0 sales. I was just busy being busy.
So tell me about that. So you're at these moving and grooving networking events. Why were you not able to translate into sales? Was there something disconnected there?
Yeah, I was totally disconnected from the lifeblood of my business. Mm-hmm. So my thing was I was all about the look of my business rather than the liquidity of the money in my business. And I may chalk that up to being 22, but also just chalking up to I just didn't know. I didn't know. And that's why my businesses failed. So my thing was I was passing out business cards all day long. I was saying what I was doing, but I wasn't there to get clients. I was there basically for a in-person commercial.
Mm. How has it changed now, being your focus and drive where you are today? If you were to walk in a room of movers and shakers, how do you work it today? Like, are you more focused on building relationships? How does it work for you today?
So when I enter a room, it depends on what the room is for. So let's just say it's a networking event and it's promoted as a networking event. Then it is my job to dominate the room. Mm. Point blank and period. I am there to dominate the room. And I do that a couple of ways. For one, you will know about me. You will definitely know. And how you will know, for one, I'm going to do something outlandish. So when I say outlandish, instead of you giving me your business card, I'm going to bring, let's say, a soccer ball. And on the white parts of the soccer ball, I'm going to ask you to put your name and your phone number. Mm-hmm. And so when I call you tomorrow, I'm going to say, hi, Christina, this is Asa. I'm the guy with the soccer ball.
You're a disruptor. You got them to remember
Yes.
you by doing something outside the box.
Of course.
Awesome.
And also, I'm going to not tell you. So if you ask me that dreaded question, so what is it that you do?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say I'm the founder of Genius Academy. I'm not going to say any of that. I'm going to say what the results are from working with me. So a lot of times in these networking events and clubs and all of that, even the referral groups even have this issue. You stand up and you say, "Hi, I'm a beautician." And everyone's like, "Oh, okay, she's a beautician." No one really cares.
Mm-hmm.
And so my thing is, you need to make sure they understand why they need to care that you're in the room. So instead of saying you're a beautician, you would say, "As a result of work with me, women between the ages of 25 and 30 understand that they have a beauty within them that they want to create and show on the outside."
Mm.
So my thing is, I like that result. How do you do that?
I love that. Because really, when people come to you, it's really based on the results they want from you. Whatever it is, product, service, or information, they're looking for a certain result.
Right.
Yeah. Fabulous. I love that because I always hated that dreaded question. So what do you do? Even when I love what I do, it's
Right.
like I am not just the basis of what I do. I'm way more than that. So I will basically say, well, so what's your passion? What's your big love? What makes you jump out of bed in the morning? Because that's not always what someone does. And then we get on a whole long story. Well, I grew up doing this or this happened or that happened. And then we get to a much longer, deeper story where you get to really connect more with the person you're talking to.
Exactly. And then also making sure that when I say what my results are, so like for instance, my result is as a result of working with me, coaches, trainers, and entrepreneurs are guaranteed to receive a luxury level of accountability service for themselves and their clients. So once I say that, I actually say who I'm looking for. And I'm looking for coaches, trainers, and consultants who have clients who they would like to keep accountable. Because it does nothing if you don't say who you're looking for. Because my thing is, I want to trigger you, because if you're at a networking event, that means you probably know other people and you are a center of influence. So I need to let your brain start working of who do you know that you can help me?
Mm-hmm. Got it. Makes a lot of sense. A totally different approach than just looking to get your card into as many hands as possible. And that kind of drives me totally crazy, Asa. When I go to these places and I come home with 100 cards, I'm like, stay away. I don't want any more cards. It's like, I don't know who the people are. I haven't gotten to know them. And people are just so concerned. And I'm guessing a little nervous that they just want to get the cards out of their hands into your hands so they can feel like they did something without really having made any real connection with that person. Exactly.
And Christine, you might have a good point about the cards. That's something else. So I was very much into the card business. Like I spent so much time on that. And I realized that most of the cards all the cards that I was doing up to that point had no action step.
Ah.
So let's say, okay, so what do you do if you only have one card left? Well, the thing about it is, instead of just taking a picture of your card or scanning it into one of those card apps, my thing is I tell people, add a call to action. So text this word to this number to get this.
I love that.
Right. Because my thing is, let's say someone, you don't have a card. You just say, okay, hey, you want to stay in touch with me? Cool. Okay, just text the word genius to 38470. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, just do that. And that's how you can get in touch with me. And then making sure that there is a sequence or some type of automation that does nurture them so they can contact you as soon as possible.
And here's what I'm also loving about it is you're creating accountability for them to contact you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because so many times I must have passed out hundreds of cards, and very few of them have resulted in people calling me afterward to actually, let's do something. Really, for me, what's created more results as far as connection and going forward has been picking up the phone, contacting people after an event or a networking event, and having that personal conversation, not really the cards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. Well, it's been so fabulous having you out here talking about all this, Asa. I want you to let everyone know before we head on out where they can reach you and find out more about you.
Of course. And again, thank you for having me on. I've enjoyed the conversation. And for those listeners out there, you can definitely contact me at www.geniusacademy.co. You could call us at 855-55-GENIUS. That is 855-55-GENIUS. Or if you'd like to, you can receive a couple of free gifts as a result of texting the word genius to 38470.
Thank you so much again for coming to Savvy Central Radio. Do you have any parting words you'd like to leave with our audience?
Yes, I do. I started out as something called a bliss coach, and I love the word bliss. Yeah. That is one of those words I live by. I love it. And bliss, the definition of bliss is to be happy to the point that you are oblivious to everything else. And so a quote that I often say is, business is a necessity, bliss is a luxury, and you deserve both.
I love that. A perfect way to end our conversation. Asa, I want to thank you again for coming to Savvy Central Radio. And everyone, please go to geniusacademy.co. And thank you again for coming to Savvy Central Radio.
Thank you.
Join our mailing list today by texting Savvy Radio to find out about upcoming guests and events and receive a free gift, how podcasting can help increase sales and influence in your business.
Savvy Central Radio is home to over 100,000 listeners per month globally and runs in syndication on 8 AM and FM platforms, including iHeartRadio and 6 podcasting platforms. To find out more about our paid sponsorship opportunities or to become a guest and find out how we can help you get your message out to the world, call 718 area code 713-2289 or email at savvycentralradio@gmail.com.